Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV, where I'm privileged to be joined by the mighty Sean Phillips and the mighty Ed Brubaker. How are you both?
Right, thank you.
Yeah, good.
So the last time you were here in town for Forbidden Planet TV, we were talking about Reckless Volume 1, which at that point was a month or two away. And you're back to talk about A, how that went, and B, Reckless Volume 2, Friend of the Devil. So guys, are you pleased with the response that you got to Reckless?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to gauge response when you put out a book instead of single issues, I think, but it's been overwhelming. Like the orders were the highest advance orders for anything we'd ever had, and the reorders are just insane, and response from fans is just over the top. Like everybody really seemed to it felt like the right book to release at that moment, because it's both fun and feels like what we do, which is dark and depressing. But Jake colored it all pretty.
Yeah.
You have to read it close to have your heart break.
Yeah, I can't remember if we talked about this last time, but I know we talked about a lot of the various movie, like either not so much references but inspirations on your work and your work with Reckless. I can't remember we talked about last time around, but afterwards, once I read the book and I read it a second time, something it brought to mind for me was William Friedkin's To Live and Die in LA. With all that kind of that saturated, the saturated LA noir kind of vibe. I think it really sort of brought that to mind for me.
I can't say it's an influence on me or Jake because I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I've realised now, mate, that when it comes to these kind of movie references, and you, Sean, that's often the answer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. John's like, did they make me do a cover for Criterion? Then I haven't seen it.
I don't always watch it then either.
Yeah. That's funny that you mentioned that. Like I think of that one as like a early 80s seedy LA kind of thing. I was thinking a lot of like the decline of Western civilization and the way that it depicted LA as, because I lived in San Diego in that period of time, and we would come up from San Diego to LA, and it was always frightening. Like you come up to see a punk show or go to a movie that's not out yet, and LA, parts of it just looked like a wasteland in like 1981. Just the same as like Times Square in the 70s was like, don't walk through it. Now it's like, going through Disneyland. But yeah, it's funny, the only visual references, like Sean and I go over, like we each find like real photo reference for like the period and stuff of actual locations. But the only visual references I sent for like color stuff to Jake was just like weird old 70s movies, like the Prime Cut, the Lee Marvin movie, or some Terrence Malick stuff, just to sort of show him the tone of it. Because I kept trying to, they came here a couple years ago to California, having never been there before. And I just wanted to be like, it didn't used to all just be brown and dried out. Like there used to be colors here. So like, this is why it takes place in the 80s. I was like, no, this is what California felt like yellow and blue and red, not just
the script's full of notes of like, make this green.
Yeah. I did, because brown is my least favorite color for some reason.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because in comics you always have to have like that one background color that sort of saturates everything. So my preference is always like a blue or a purple.
Yeah, I guess if you went with brown, you'd make everything look like an episode of Columbo or any of those Universal shows from the 70s, all of which seem to have that same kind of brown, flat studio lit color scheme everywhere you go.
Rockford was like more expensive, I guess.
Yeah.
You look at Rockford. I think I've screen capped some Rockford here and there to show Sean, but like, because I still look at that, and that's one of the looks that I really think of when I'm working on Reckless, is like that, because he's the private eye driving around in his car, living in his little shack
on the beach.
His what do you guys, a caravan?
Yeah, caravan. Yeah, caravan. Yeah,
with his dad.
With his dad, yeah. Yeah, Rocky. I think it's interesting that you reference that, because the thing about Rockford, of course, I'm sure I've seen you write about this, Ed, is that it actually holds up. You know, you watch it now and it's a beautifully realized show.
Oh yeah, I mean that's where David Chase, who created The Sopranos, started out. Well, he didn't start out there. He started out on like Night Stalker or something, but he wrote a ton of Rockfords and won like Emmys for them and stuff. Yeah, and it's really fun. By the way, it's like some of them are really serious and heartbreaking, but a lot of them are just kind of funny.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, his best friend is a con artist. He's always having to get out of jail.
Yeah, no, those Angel Martin episodes are great, actually. And of course, you know, he's an ex-con. He's not a policeman like so many TV PIs.
Yeah.
It adds an
I like
interesting
that.
level
He's like
to
a
it.
hardened ex-con. Yeah, I always like whenever the talk of a reboot of Rockford has come around, there's always some part of me that wishes I could go try out for it, but then another part that's like, don't touch the perfection of Jim Garner.
Yeah, no, I mean, he just inhabits that role. He is so good. Now, to segue from Rockford into Ethan Reckless, so how many? So now that we're getting into Friend of the Devil, how many years have elapsed in the Ethan Reckless narrative, and where does the new book find him?
It's the first one was, yeah, it's like 4 years later. The first one was 81 and this one is 85.
All those flashbacks make it hard to realize when it is, doesn't it? All through the 70s as well anyway. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we always flash back. It goes back all the way to the 60s and the 70s actually in the story that's being told. The present day of the story is 85 though. But yeah, he's still living and working out of the movie theater, and we get to sort of see his evolution. And this one, the last one was really kind of like the origin story in a way. Like, I wanted to make sure we didn't reveal the twist to who he really was and like what his backstory was, as he like presents one thing and is another. I still don't want to spoil it for anyone who's going to pick up both books at the same time. But this one, I felt like in some ways, now that we knew who he was, I was able to make it more about the case. Like the last time the case was, he was part of the case in a way. Yeah. And this one is more like about his personal life and like how he's trying to evolve as a human. And because of that, because of caring about somebody, taking a case that he probably normally wouldn't have taken because he'd just know straight up like, oh, this is even if it goes well, it's going to be bad. But then he takes this case to go hunt down this girl who went missing in the mid-70s in LA, who moved to LA to become an actress. And, it brings us into all the weird LA sort of everything in between the Manson family and the mid-80s sort of satanic panic of America, is what he kind of dives into, and that sort of Hollywood underground that a lot of the weird cultier aspects of the 70s and 60s, really seeped into the Hollywood part of it. It seems like every time there's like a cult, Hollywood gets to be part of it in some way or another, like the recent one.
Yeah, the NXIVM stuff. Yeah,
the NXIVM stuff had that whole Hollywood aspect. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw that Wild Wild Country documentary, but that one, had a big LA contingent too, where celebrities were getting involved in that one. But there's always some kind of creepy, celebrity side to these weird cults.
And I take it from how you describe it, you kind of jammed that together with the kind of Z-grade movie production that was particularly prevalent in the era in which you're writing. So that produce all those Satanism movies, and whether it's the Devil's Reign or the Devil Rides Out, or all of those kind of things.
Yeah, I was thinking about that sort of the American version of what Hammer was over there, I guess. Or I guess you guys had a couple different companies that were doing those sort of, we make a movie every week. Yeah. And and every now and then one's the Wicker Man. It's like a classic. Most of the time it's like, there's a story here somewhere and the girls take their clothes off. The vampires are lesbians.
That's it. Yeah, well, there's a lot of Hammer vampire lesbians, as you know, of course.
Oh yeah, I grew up on that stuff. Well, when I that was one of the things when we lived on the military bases. One of the things that we got was like weird old movies and stuff. Like we wouldn't know that it was like an old TV show or an old movie because it would just be on the one channel that was on television there because we were living on the base in Cuba. But yeah, they had all these old Hammer films and stuff. So they would just put those on TV in the afternoon for kids to watch. It's like, that's the great thing about living on a military base. In the morning, you watch like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, and then you come home from school and, oh, here's Hammer horror film, like, Dracula's Wife.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can imagine how that's a very interesting diet of movies that no doubt accounts for the worldview that you put into your work now, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my dad was especially a movie buff, and I mean, every room in our house looked like what's behind Sean right now because my dad was such a book collector my whole life. I just assumed all houses just came covered in bookshelves. But we had a deal when I was a kid after my parents split up. He would let me and my brother pick the movie on Saturday, and then he would pick the movie on Sunday. And we had to just promise him we wouldn't tell our mom what we saw. So like he took me to the Devils in the theater. Like
wow, okay.
I was like 7. He would take us to weird film festivals like Fellini movies and stuff when we were way too young for it. But he was a big Ken Russell fan, though he didn't remember that later in life, which was weird. And I'm like, well, who took me to see Women in Love or Men in Love or whatever?
Wow, yeah.
Why do I have images of naked
men wrestling in front of a
yeah, Oliver Reed wrestling.
I mean, that's such an interesting choice because the thing about Ken Russell films is they. I think to the child's perception of the world, they're kind of truly dismaying because you're seeing people behave in a way that you don't have any frame of reference for before at all when you're a kid. And it's like, whoa, are people actually capable of this?
Every scene is somewhat terrifying. Even Tommy.
Yeah.
Man. You see Tommy thinking that would be, well, it's a rock and roll movie. And it's like, I mean,
I think Tommy is nightmarish, and
yeah.
I think you're really onto something there. I mean, even things like even it's Anne Margaret in a bath of beans. There's something that's actually really unnerving about that.
I was terrified for years that every babysitter was going to try and drown me with orange juice.
Yeah.
Because of that scene where like pouring orange juice on there, like Sunny Delight or something.
Because you're watching Tommy essentially get abused for the first 2/3 of the film.
Yeah.
By a variety of different characters and a variety of different ways.
It's a really scary story. Even to this day, I kind of can't watch it. It's a horror movie. Sean is like, can we talk about the comic?
I'm writing a list of films to watch.
Yeah. If you actually want a truly unnerving Ken film, I think Crimes of Passion, is it, with Kathleen Turner? That's really rather a tough watch, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually have been watching a lot of like old movies lately. We have like this little like group of friends who we all just sort of watch weird old movies and text each other at the same time. And we've been watching a lot of De Palma. We've watched some Ken Russell. We watched Lara the White Worm, actually, which is one of his later,
that's fucking nuts, that film.
Weirder movies. Yeah. I mean, it's arguably bad, but Hugh Grant is in it, which is just astonishing. Like he's just the most sort of upper class British guy ever in a movie in this thing, and it's just like a weird horror movie about like a vampire worm.
I don't remember him being in it because it's one of those things that I saw that when it was released, but he wasn't on my radar at the time.
Yeah,
that experience that you will rewatch a film and you realize somebody who's subsequently become famous is in it. I always find that quite unnerving. That means
it's like Diner, where everybody was a nobody, and then you look at it now and you're like, oh, so everybody in this movie became a huge movie star. Actually, the one guy everyone thought was going to be the biggest star is the only one who just went on to be a TV guy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it is very interesting. Sean, I've got a question for you actually about the look of Friend of the Devil. So your associates at Image were very kind to send me a couple of pages to look at before we spoke, and it seems to me that your relationship with Jacob, your son, who does the colors, that the harmony of what you're producing just seems to be getting richer with each of these books. And I was interested in what you, given the fact that you must be so close anyway, what your process is between the two of you, and how your process actually works out when you're illustrating.
Well, I don't really say anything to Jake. He just does what he wants to do, really. Very occasionally I might have specific things in mind. Like at the moment, he's just colouring the first few pages of the third book, and I had a particular way I wanted to do that. So he hasn't shown me what he's done yet, but hopefully that'll follow what I thought of. But he might have thought of something better. But usually I just leave him to it. Very occasionally, when he gives stuff back, then I might change something, but not very often. I just trust him to get on with it. Ed gives him some direction, and we just let.
Yeah, every now and then, like I'll put direction in the script for something maybe here and there if I'm seeing it a certain way, or usually it's just time of day, so
yeah,
or like twilight or morning. And
I got my comp copies today.
Oh, you did? Yeah. It doesn't look great.
It does. Yeah, it looks really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased with it.
Really
I just said if there's any colour that I showed him stuff. No, not really. I mean, yeah, time of day. Try not to use any brown stuff. Like that,
that's my note always.
He doesn't put any black
tones
in
purple.
Yeah. Lots of purple, lots of turquoise, lots of pink, and no black in his colours. So everything's a lot cleaner. And if he does put any in, I'll take it out. He sends me unflattened files so I can edit them if I want to.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't do much.
We're lucky to have him now. I feel like, when we first tried him out, it was like he was going to help Sean, and then he took over. And now I'm just like, let's just sign him to a lifelong contract like we have.
Well, no matter how successful he gets,
he's getting so popular on his own stuff. He's going to really have time for us, especially when he has to color 120 pages at a time.
I mean, I guess, Sean, it's just as well that you've already got that lifelong contract in place. You know what I
mean? Yeah.
Our life.
I mean, it'd be weird if he did go, but I don't think. Hopefully, he won't anytime soon. I think the way we're putting out 120 pages at a time, I find it much easier to work to that sort of schedule, and Jake does too.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Me
too. He can plan his year rather than plan every month.
Yeah, he doesn't have to take a week out of every month to work on something else. Yeah, that's smart. So, he's got the Phillips disease too, of taking on too much. So, which is great because it's like infected me a little bit, just keeping up with these guys.
Well, the pace at which you guys are putting these books out, it seems to me like you've stamped on the accelerator, but at the same time, that the quality of the work that you're doing I mean, as you know, I'm a big fan of your work. I've always been a fan of it, but it feels like you're hitting this kind of double peak of like productivity and quality at the moment. It seems to be really in gear, which is, I think, why Reckless was so well received. It's a lot. I love the length of it, but it feels very satisfying at the same time.
Well, I feel like the not having to take the break every month for me is just, it makes it so much easier to write the story and move forward. I know for Sean, it's just, he does, a certain amount of pages every week and we're able to work straight through, and then he can take like 3 or 4 weeks off to do, other little things
not having to stop every month to do a cover or design work or the illustration in the back of the monthly comic. I don't have to do any of that. So I can just work through. And I want to as well because the story's engaging and I want to carry on with it. It's frustrating to have to stop. I mean, I'm not doing any other work at all at the moment, and I haven't for a long time. No, not while I'm drawing Reckless because it's too distracting.
And on that note, I'm going to pause this interview on Sean talking about his dedication to illustrating Reckless. As usual, Ed and Sean had a lot to say about creating Friend of the Devil, which you can order from the links attached to this video. And we're going to come back and revisit the remainder of that conversation in a future episode of Forbidden Planet TV. So lovers of Brubaker and Phillips, and who isn't a lover of Brubaker and Phillips, we'll see you back here soon. All the best. Take care. If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.